Hello and welcome to This and That. I'm Dave Lees.
And I'm Jonathan Byer, and I'm on the West Coast, so I'm awake because of just the time zone. I don't know how you're awake, Dave
I'm
Lees,
awake
after this
because
kind of competition.
I'm awake because of Red Bull and our passion for figure skating. So if you're new here, subscribe below and make sure to smash that like button so we know that you're liking
Oh,
what we are
yeah.
doing. Appreciative of our efforts late at night. But let's get right into it, Jonathan, because there was some news here. So in all full disclosure, I was getting ready for a wedding on Saturday morning that I had to leave really early for. So I went to bed early on Saturday night. And as I'm in bed and the pairs are going, I start getting my Fitbit starts buzzing that Aliona's not there with Alexa and what is going on. Because remember, when we talked to her and interviewed her, she talked about the competitions that she would be at this year. And
See, and I thought she said she would not be at Skate America.
my impression was that I think people were under the impression that she would be at Skate America.
And this is why I should just shut my mouth because, like, I wrote on someone's wall on Facebook, I think it was Josh's, that I was like, no, we knew she wasn't going to be here. Tara and Johnny are totally just causing a drama. And then I was like, oh, I see. This is real. This is an actual drama.
People study our shows like they really parse them. So I didn't even haven't had a chance to even go rewatch our interview with Aliona because it wasn't even worthwhile
Right.
at this point. But I found it really interesting that it even got to this point because obviously by that point between then and Saturday everything was like fishy, right? So I woke up the next morning, thought that something was up, called a few people, was like on watch, like what is going on, right? Other people were thinking something was up. I sent a message to Aliona, didn't hear back right away, but right when I drove by and got out of the church, I start getting like messages like, oh my goodness, Tana said they're no longer with, on TV.
It was Mark Henretti who does such a nice job. He announced it on Eurosport, and I was like, oh no. So, excuse me. So I promptly messaged some friends in Germany, and they were like, no, this is real. This is real.
So if I didn't have this wedding, I would have been on this, like...
Yeah.
Also...
But she didn't appreciate people even mentioning it. It was so...
You
it's
mean
a confusing
Aliona or
situation.
Alexa?
Alexa.
Right.
It was...
This is
Yeah.
strange to me. Alexa's face said that... So I rewatched that, and I was thinking that... Was it that they were not... It's so weird to me that Andrea Joyce would ever blindside someone in an interview. That just seems so unlike her, and usually her softball question.
Oh, see, I didn't see this. I heard about her there was an issue with Andrea Joyce, but I did not actually see it because that wasn't the feed I was watching. So what happened exactly?
So, Andrea Joyce talked to them, like her usual sideline after kind of a rough skate for them, but not the worst skate ever, right? Like, I feel like we've seen worse. And look, we'll get into what we know and all of that, but she asked them, your coach Aliona said that she's no longer your coach. And they had already said it on the air during their free skate. Obviously, Alexa and Chris wouldn't know. And Alexa's face, like, it was like they do the alternate thing where, like, the girl answers the question and the guy answers the question. So it was Chris's turn to answer the question. But you could see that Alexa is like me where we cannot hide our feelings on our face. And she was like, the lips were smiling, but the eyes were telling the real story. And it was interesting, but it was like very strange that I felt that NBC went for you could tell NBC went for the story, but NBC also seems to sometimes be working with the USFS as opposed to setting the narrative. And this to me was a little bit confusing because you could see how the story gets bungled and this is why I'm going to say that the USFS made a really weird... I work in communications, full disclosure, so we handle things where if something like this happened, I work at a company where we get sued or legislators go after us and we're publicly regulated. So you would have a story and you would have talking points, right? And you just stick to the talking points. And honestly, there's not that many people that care about pair skating that are present at Skate America. Jonathan, we didn't even ask for a credential this year. We weren't around,
Yeah, right.
Jackie Wong, he's not going to dig. He works for them.
Right.
I don't think Phil there. I don't believe Phil was there. So there, besides maybe NBC, there's not many people who are that. Not gonna
interested in the real story, not in just the fluff. Like people, and not in a gossipy
Lynn's
way,
not
but
gonna
like
ruffle any feathers. She works for them, like she can't,
Right.
So
right.
especially what they work.
And it just seems so promising, which is why there's such an interest in a feeling of let down.
It felt promising but risky to me. So
it did. Okay. Yeah.
But
well, clearly it was.
So we'll get to that. But I don't want you to think that. But they could have just had this, like when Sasha Cohen and Tarasova split, they had that whole story, and Tarasova went along with it, at least in the U.S., that her mother was ill and that she didn't have enough time to devote to Sasha, and like they stuck with that, and even though no one really bought it, it bought them time. Like they
it was a united front.
Yeah.
It was no ill will kind of way to handle it.
Yeah. And everyone would have bought it. They would have been like, "Oh my goodness, Aljona Bruno so busy after the Olympics. Oh, such a shame."
Right.
And they could have been like, "Oh,
yes, the baby." Yeah.
Oh, we're so sorry. Bada bing, bada boom. Never, like, we tried, so hard with the schedules and the time difference. People would have bought it and boom.
Right.
You have Phil on Twitter who is like convinced that this Nathan thing can work with Yale, and like he is promoting this after every competition. Really, people would have, like, if they wanted to believe it, they would have believed it, right? Like, so
right.
You got to sell them the narrative in skating. It's what it's all about. Okay, it's a competition. So this is, I think that they could have said that from the practice day on. People would have just been like, "Oh, such a shame."
People would have been so sympathetic instead of kind of like side-eyeing what was happening. Yeah.
Yeah. Instead, it kind of, and because they don't have Aljona on board for this and like a united front, she then told German Eurosport, which obviously Andrea Joyce knew, because already Twitter said that German Eurosport said that Aljona said that they didn't want to work as hard as she wanted them to, or something along those lines, rough translation. So Andrea Joyce would have already been told that, because the NBC obviously has researchers and producers who are watching Twitter, and they watch everything that's said.
Right.
So it's just like a really bungled situation. And obviously the USFS knew if Mitch Moyer was putting them on the ice, and that they know the credential situation, and they know that Aljona's not there. And if Mitch is putting them on the ice, and he linked them up with Aljona. So what did you hear about this from your German friends?
Well, that there was it's clear that the potential is there. And I really do believe that Aljona believed in that potential. Like, it seems clear also from us speaking with her that she really thought that more than just the potential of being a great pair, that she thought she could really get them to really compete for a world medal. And I think you see in the face, you see in the body deportment of Alexa, there's a disconnect happening. And I don't mean to make an inappropriate comparison, but it's what I fear a bit for Gracie. If you look at what Alexa has been, she took all that, they were starting to build momentum. They really were, with the making the Grand Prix final, like all that kind of stuff. They found that Metallica program, like things were working for them. And then their momentum was halted by the disease or her health ailments. Still not public about what that really was, and I would imagine difficult. And then last season was clearly very difficult, and in a Gracie Gold type of fourth at Worlds kind of way. And so I see them constantly coming back. Now we have a new solution, so everything's fixed. We're all ready to go. And it was like, I just wonder if she needs just some time to just collect herself. As any human being would, and it's my concern about Gracie, is because, like, this is what can happen if you kind of push someone just a smidge too soon. Maybe Alexa would be fine by nationals, but I might have taken them out of the Grand Prix altogether to just give it time to simmer, so there's no anxiety about the rush to be ready by this weekend. Because again, I think the material is of quality. And the kinds of mistakes Alexa was making did not strike me as like unprepared mistakes. They struck me as like you need an Adderall or something? Like, I just wanted her. That's a joke. That's a joke. I don't
No, I
think she
know.
needed that.
Yeah.
Like, just to focus. It just seemed like a lack of focus because we know she can do those things, and they were the kinds of errors. They weren't 2 foot errors. They weren't under rotation errors. She was coming out of like a triple sow, like at 2.5 revolutions and things, and all of that kind of stress, not having a plan, not having your talking points, not having it all set up, creates a jumbled feeling when you're trying to compete. And I'm sure everyone was there ready to be like, see, it was a bad move or something like that.
I don't
And
think it
just
was a
thought
bad
the whole-
move. The
I don't
rest,
think it was. I think it was the right move. I'm afraid them leaving is the wrong move.
I kind of think that leaving was potentially the wrong move. Okay. So when we talked to Aljona, I really thought that Aljona was going to be kind of the head coach, but that a lot of their coaching would be kind of the other two guys that Aljona was coached by with Bruno.
Right.
Now, one of them is coaching with Bruno, but he's coaching in Switzerland. And they went there like once when Aljona was going there to something with Bruno. And then there was the bald guy, and he, they said, was not as technical, but was like a Yoda who could bring everyone together. He was not,
Okay.
that he was like at the bottom of the mountain in Germany and not at the same rink. And Aljona really liked to stay in Oberstdorf where they had like full ice all
Right.
the time, which was a huge advantage. But I really think that like that situation, complicated, they could have kind of worked a situation out. You have to realize that Aljona is also a new coach. And even though she was the leader of her team and Alexa is obviously the leader of their pair team, there becomes like, I have a leader personality, right? Like I can't really like hide it. So like me being with Aljona, we have to be on the same page. Otherwise it's going to be a problem, right? And I think that
Right.
Alexa and Aljona are both leaders, right? Like they're both alphas and they're both women, which is also a little hard because Aljona would demonstrate stuff that she couldn't, there's a language barrier. So things that she can't really say, she would show Alexa. Now, if you have someone that's better than you, who's just off of the Olympics, showing stuff, that's also going to breed insecurity when they're showing your partner. Also, Aljona's a new coach where a lot of this is mental and managing. And as you were talking about Alexa, since she's become a top pair performer, she has been adapting to a lot of stress and a lot of new things every year. I think we saw it at Nationals over the whole music edit fiasco to, like it's just like a different kind of pressure. And I understand. And they felt that, and I was talking to someone about how U.S. Nationals is unfair and it's not just components, it's even in the plus threes and the minus and like how much it hurts someone that Alexa and Chris probably would have won internationally, but then they didn't. Tara and Danny got scores that were like much higher than they would have gotten, so if you make a mistake, it hurts you even more. So when you look at Aljona and Alexa and that kind of a situation, I think that if they really want to move forward, they need to make a big push to someone who's really going to improve them and fine-tune them. Someone said, oh, they should have stepped with Delilah. But I think that's keep doing the same thing and expecting for a better result. Like she brought them to a point. But like we would talk to Aljona, and I don't remember if she said it on camera or off, but her big thing was that she feels that Alexa and Chris have never skated with straight arms and straight legs and had like, limbs in unison and like the lines. And I think that that's very...
And not in a way that they couldn't, that it had not been encouraged and worked on previously. So it was something she was looking forward to really working on with them. Yeah.
And not even just in like an extension. They're even talking about through the crossover, like the way you do a crossover. And we had heard that they were doing stroking, lessons, at Nebelhorn. But I think that they tried to change so much, and they didn't get there until July, that they really were working with Aljona intensely. So I think that they probably felt behind, I would imagine, right? And they added
and comes a panic, comes anxiety, comes a feeling of like you can half-ass things because you're trying to get ready so fast, which is why I was like, take the time. No one needs you to finish fifth or whatever she finished at Skate America. Yeah.
So when they say that they didn't, because I asked Aljona, and she said like it wasn't that they didn't work hard, but they didn't listen to me. Like they didn't, there wasn't agreement. And I really think that, so they've watered down their program since Nebelhorn. And I imagine that they wanted to water down their program. And we've seen this before because how many times did Alexa and Chris do side-by-side double toes because they weren't ready to do the triple toes? And Delilah let that happen. I don't think Aljona is ever going to let you go out and do a side-by-side double toe if her name is attached to you. Now, I'm not saying that they wanted to do that here, but if you look, they were doing, they had like this lift before transitions into the throw Lutz. And that they still did a transition into it, but they took out the mini lift. They took out a transition before the side-by-side triple toes. You know, there were things in that program that they didn't commit to. And then you wonder if it just becomes, you know, a really dominant person who doesn't know how to get the best out of you yet. And like, you don't fully trust this and you're not feeling ready for the Grand Prix. And apparently they hadn't done a lot of run-throughs before Nebelhorn because they were still putting all the pieces together. But really...
Well, and this is the thing, Dave. Like, we talk about, like, trust. Let it just... Remember Frank Carroll always being like, just do what you do. Just go do your job. If you have changed your coach, if you have changed your home, if you have changed your choreographer, and now you are changing your plan about being seen in the United States without that coach, and you're changing... It's even like when Nathan at the Olympics, stop changing. Yeah. Just pick something and see it through, because that may help you focus a little bit more. All of a sudden you're coming into a side-by-side triple jump and you're like, wait, which one is this? Do we do a transition? Do we not do that transition? I don't even remember, because there's nothing to kind of cling to in that stability. I don't know how anyone, it must have been a very nerve-wracking performance for her, and yet he seemed pretty cool. I really enjoyed seeing him.
He's always pretty cool, and I thought he looked a lot better here. Like, I saw a difference in him. Still had ways to go, but I did see a difference in him. His triple toe...
Absolutely.
His triple toe was kind of a mess, like, from the takeoff with the arms. But the Salchow, much better in both programs. I thought overall he looked more committed, and, like, he was the rock. I thought that... So I imagine that Aljona wanted them to keep everything in that program and to really hard drive them. Maybe harder... And they probably got panicky, I would think, before the, you know, with Skate America coming up. And they couldn't really withdraw because of all of the ISU points for your ranking and your standing and where then you draw for these competitions. To, you know, miss these things is a huge problem. They also sat out, you know, the Grand Prix 2 years ago, so they're down points from that. So they really have, you know, between a rock and a hard place. They, you know, they would have probably loved the luxury to take off, but they had to compete these events. So... You know, it's a weird situation where I worry though now, because they, you know, they were clearly not the dominant force in this coaching. Like, Aljona was clearly calling the shots. And I think that she called a lot of right shots if they want to really move ahead in the world. I think so too. If they just want to be ahead in the US, you could go back to Delilah, you could go. But if you want to move forward in the world, you need to change things and get out of your comfort zone.
These programs were so next level. And you could tell, like, even the camera guy was trying to help them. Like, remember when they talked about, like, the 88 broadcast with Brian Boitano, and the guy who filmed it, the cinematographer. Yeah, he was like, I was really good for you. He's like, I got your head turned just the right way. And in the same way, you even see it in the thumbnail of the short program for Alexa and Chris, the way they open in that cool pose, and you're immediately drawn in, and they did it just right. Whereas, like, Ashley and Tim, their opening, I think for the short, the cameraman, like, missed the angle they were trying to go for. So you kind of miss, but you can tell there's so much to be done. I think camera people are interested in this kind of program. Like, I think dancers are interested in this kind of program. I was thrilled with this kind of program, because I was like, this is so, they're being shoved into a new world. But do they stay there? That's so what that's
when we talked to Aljona, she was like, do not panic too early if it doesn't go well with this team. But I think they weren't on that same page. I think, and if you want, you know, quicker results, you know. So then here's the thing. They could go back to Jeremy Allen, who they were working with in Chicago before they were working with Aljona full time. But he could help them maybe with the jumps, but he was a pair skater, but people say he's not, you know, the most experienced pair coach. He's not really going to get you to that next level. But at the same point, the USFS clearly in some way or another helped with the financing of this, because they were working with Aljona one-on-one so many hours and lessons per day that there's just financially the cost of that is crazy. You know, like how much that would really cost. They must have been some sort of bonus structure or something. Also not my money, not really my place to like say, but like clearly these are not like extremely wealthy skaters.
Donor.
So there's clearly like some sort of arrangement there that is curious. Um, and the USFS really did help link this up. It happened at Worlds. It happened in front of other skaters that Mitch, brought Aljona over and made like the official overtures to link this up at a banquet at Worlds. So that's interesting too. I think that what are you going to do? Go to Jeremy Allen. I would say, what are they going to stay with him through the Grand Prix? They're probably not going to make the final because they have a fourth place here. And then what would they have to get at their next event? Like, it's unlikely for them to make the final at this point to be a top 6 team. So then you could kind of figure out something before nationals. But, you could tell how, like, it's really hard because these events are all spaced out within a couple weeks of each other. But without it making the final, they'll have more time before nationals to do something. But it's...
But even in some of the quotes when they were like, well, we're competing at NHK, so I guess we'll have to figure out something by then. And I was like, how many coaches do we know that talk about the arc and the pattern? Yeah. Tom with his periodization charts, or even Frank with his like arc of there. You can't just like spend the next 2 weeks being like, well, we'll just see what happens. You know what I mean? It would be very stressful for me.
I would imagine that they have a idea or a plan of what they would like. I talked to Bruno. He was not approached. So they're not going to Montreal. That would also be really difficult because that's a tough city to navigate unless you know like a go-to everything with your, it's not like a centralized like Colorado is. Like Colorado is ideal.
Right.
Right. I don't, haven't heard that they're going to gym in Florida. So, I don't think it would be bad for them to work with another team just for this year, but I honestly think that John Zimmerman would probably be helpful in the long run for them to train with another top team. But then if they're with Haven and Brandon and people have this, and then there's like 2 teams both skating to Wicked Game, I don't think having the same music as another team is a huge deal. I mean, I know it's like a faux pas, but if it's going to be what's going to, get your career together.
Yeah, they weren't created together in the same rink. It would just be a unique circumstance. But
they need a world-class coach to really put them together. I think if you look at what Zimmerman has done with Vanessa and Morgan, that's interesting. Now, John Kerr is not as involved as he was a year before, but they also are still working with like Cizeron, and they're working with Charlie White. So they are working with sophisticated top-level people. So I would think that would be a good option. Or, to me, that would be the best option. Marina is also officially in Florida. So, there are different people that could work with them. I know. So, I don't know. What would you do? Like, it's...
Well, and I'm just thinking, I have like a couple of thoughts. Like, it's not even we're not even talking about the programs, but we've talked about like all the programs themselves and stuff. But like, I was nervous about where this was going, and we had discussed it also because how if suddenly a couple on social media starts posting really lovey-dovey posts and pictures of each other, and you're like, where is this from? And then, of course, they always end up breaking up about a month later.
Oh, my God.
It's a thing. And this was a bit that social media presence between Alexa and Aljona and Bruno and Chris.
They were looking like
all
twins.
These things.
You called it. You were uncomfortable by it.
Yeah, I was like, something is too not quite authentic about this, and it makes me nervous why they're feeling the need to do it, and maybe this is it. And it reminds me, just to overshare in a personal way, I was talking to my therapist like several months ago, and she was like, this is an overshare. I should have tried to figure out how to word this differently. But she was like, oh my gosh, don't bail. She's like, you're right there. She's like things for me, they had to get dark before they got bright. You know what I mean? And there, you reach a certain point, for instance, in like a mental health journey where like it would be so tempting. You're right at the door to be like, you know what? Forget it. I reject it. I'm going back to all my old ways. I know them. They're safe. This is too hard.
Yeah.
And that's where I feel like Alexa and Chris are at. Like, it's all right there, and it's a mess. It's a mess still, and it's supposed to be a mess, but you didn't give it enough time. And this is what we were talking about with the Gracie Gold thing. Like, you have to give it time. You can't just say it's all better now after a couple months and pretend it's totally fine. This is exactly the time I was hoping they would have stuck through it, because you knew the Grand Prix was going to be a mess. No matter how hard they were trying, it was going to be a mess. And you're just like, whatever you do, don't bail.
Yeah.
You have to see it through, and you will get there. I promise. And they bailed. So
It's
it's too
true.
bad.
Yeah, because like when I quit drinking, like it's a process. You know, like you have your good days and your bad days, and it all moves along. So I understand that. You know.
And you reach those points when you're like, this is that moment. It would be so tempting.
Yeah.
It would be so tempting to just reject it all. And then, oh, it's unfortunate. I was very excited to see where this would lead eventually.
Yeah.
Not where it would lead 2 months from now, you know?
I think it's a messier situation now, unfortunately. You know, I almost wish that they could just like reconcile and like figure it out, but they've already moved back, and it's tough.
Well, and that was the other thing. I mean, I moved to Germany from New York. There's a bit of culture shock. I had been living there and working in Europe my whole life, and there's an adjustment. And there's an adjustment beyond going to that one competition for a week.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that was another culture shock. I'm sure they weren't as happy as they are in the United States. And it was just like, oh my
And
gosh,
it's
we just
stressful.
gotta...
Skating is stressful.
Yeah.
It's all stressful. So,
Yeah.
big picture, I don't think that their mistakes are... Honestly, I think they have to do a million run-throughs. I think they need to commit to whatever they're doing. I think it's going to be really hard to find another coach in this situation. I wouldn't be surprised if the USFS tries to bring people in, but it's a difficult, dicey one.
It would be a hard thing to take on because you're starting at a deficit just because of all of this strange timing.
And also, this split was like public and so emphasized and so like anticipated what was going to happen, because there is the potential. There is the potential, you know.
Of course, that's the only reason we're talking about it so much. Yeah.
But there does, but I don't think. And look, I've been sassy on Twitter. I've been sassy, before. I will say this: I don't think that the way Alexa was posting the other day is helpful in the long run to the management of it. I don't know. It just seemed strange. Like she seemed angry but defensive. But I don't know. But like it. And who knows what, the whole situation is. That's why I just think that the USFS, at the end of the day, failed them by not coming up with a plan, and everyone is going to stick with this and navigate it. And you're not going to deviate because people are going to panic. But then I wasn't sure, like, Alexa saying the circus was in town. Like, what does that even mean? Like with people, like it just felt strange and angry and not...
And unnecessary.
Yeah.
A little bit. All these people actually do at their core love and care about you and want you to do well.
These people do want you to do well. Yeah.
And so this lashing out, rejection of everyone who comes across her, I don't know. It would be a tough ask. I don't know what coach would be readily like, yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, I don't know. There's the potential, why she's a fighter and why she could do, but she has looked unsure of her jumps and just overall the last couple competitions. But I actually think that overall the aesthetic is better. I got the program more here.
Much. Yeah.
Even like the transitions, and they do a best on a squat into an Ina Bauer and inside Ina Bauer. I thought it looked much better and more sophisticated, and that they like, when you're in hell, keep going. Like what your therapist was saying.
Yeah.
Like, keep going.
Yeah. Deeper into the crevasse. Yeah. Like, and I'm telling you, here, I wrote down the, in the free skate, I thought the lasso lift, incredible. And the transition out of the Paris combo spin is like phenomenal to me. Like, I just love all this stuff. There were so many great things. And
we're already seeing so many comments about, like, should the USFS back Kane and Leduc? And to me, that's, again, short-sighted results. And here's why I think about that. Is because Kane and Leduc are kind of like your lower-grade team that's being consistent right now. But they don't have the levels, and they don't have the long-term potential. Like, Alexa and Chris were only, like, 4 points behind them in the long with several glaring errors.
With an implosion, not a get. I mean, and that's... Yeah, it's a tough thing. They were able to medal because people faltered and they did well.
Yeah. But the long-term potential being in the top 10 is not there. So I was looking at Kane
Right.
Leduc versus Tarasov and Morozov. Like what? Because Tarasov and Morozov, not perfect of a team. They mess up a lot. But here,
Right.
where are they versus the leader? So Tarasov and Morozov, they do a triple twist. It's a level 4. Kane Leduc, triple twist level 1. It starts from a 6, but Tarasov and Morozov do. They start from a 5.1. Kane Leduc don't get positive GUE on their twist almost ever. Tarasov and Morozov, that's a good element for them. So they're losing a couple points there. They both under-rotated their side-by-side jumps, but Kane and Leduc, it's becoming a real pattern, the triple loop, to be an under-rotation. Taras Morozov, we have seen them do clean triple toes. That's points. Kane and Leduc don't get positive GUE on the lift. They often look kind of scary.
Mhm. Well, like the entrance to the lift in the short program. Is this the short or the long? No, this is the short.
Yeah.
It has such a cool entrance because he's flipping her up, and then he has to like skid to like a huge stop, and you really think he's just gonna fall backwards and let her go. Like it's an almost cool moment that ends up looking very scary.
Yeah.
And I don't want to feel scared in a Paris event.
Yeah.
I just want to feel lonely and lecherous like I normally do. Okay.
So the throw, not Kane and Leduc's best element.
Right.
Honestly, to me, their best element is their all-around skating, a nice program. They have a nice look on the ice. That's kind of like their strength. What I see is, the all-around overall consistency. But a lot of you look at the programs. Oh, the back outside death spiral. They have a 3. Cosmos have a 4. But the biggest problem is that the U.S. doesn't have great short programs at Worlds. Deanna and Nate have had issues in their short. They need to land those side-by-side jumps. They need to land the throw. Kane and Leduc, they miss levels, under rotations, problems. Alexa and Chris are still probably the best bet to go out and do a good short.
Of raw material. They have the best programs, in my opinion. Although Tara and Danny's, I think, are also great programs. But they're the ones with the potential.
Yeah.
The most potential.
So, and I've heard that the USFS has said to the pairs that they're looking for a team that whoever they send to Worlds, they want to be able to compete against More Towers and Marinero. They want that team to be very neck and neck with them. That is the goal.
Okay.
That is which is not a bad goal for this season if they want to get 2 spots for next year. So I thought that's interesting. Taras and Morozov, interesting here. With their long program, they're better short program skaters. At what point do you think it's the fact that they don't do full run-throughs in practice? Because if you notice, the throws at the end of the program are often a little bit dicey. They try to go for, to set up their program for maximum effect. I mean, to me, this is the team
really quick. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Just before I forget, about the throw with Alexa and Chris, the Eurosport guy, like the Terry Gannon Eurosport guy, was like 2 back-to-back throws. That's weird or something. And I actually kind of loved that they did them back-to-back. What was your take on that?
That's what the top pairs in the world do. I mean...
Yes, I was like, I love that they were back-to-back, and I feel like more teams could actually potentially benefit from them being more back-to-back, don't you think?
I mean, it's harder, that's for sure. But I think that they're setting it up... Aljona was trying to get them to make changes that'll put them comparative with the top teams in the world. And it's going to take bumps in the road. But, I read an article, a long interview with Alexander Alexandrov, who's a famous gymnastics coach, but a leader in the Soviet Union, and then he came back in Russia, and all sorts of politics, been in and out of favor there. But he was saying about athletes is that you have to have a 4-year cycle, but break it down with 2-year cycles. And he said that every 2 years you have to reach a new athletic level if you're going to keep moving forward as an athlete. And basically, you try to achieve things for 2 years. So maybe in this 2-year cycle, Alexa and Chris need to get the throws at the end of the program. They need to get the triple toe and the triple sow cow consistent. And just kind of get that to be their baseline so that they can add more stuff in 2 years. This is your... Learn to skate with straight arms, straight legs. Learn to improve the components and get this stuff. Maybe fall 4 out of 5 competitions this year and then nail it next year and then challenge yourself again so that you have that content consistent for the Olympics. You don't want to put the element in that's new and hard the Olympic year. You want to start doing it the year before. So that's
exactly what Megan and Eric did with the quad sow cow and all these kinds of, and the Lutzes, which they said more props to them. They were like, we knew it was going to take time. So we knew we were going to fall on them and under-rotate them and do all these things for all these seasons. And everyone was going to freak out. Everyone was going to tell them to stop doing it. But they were like, we had a big picture plan. And Aljona is maybe the first one to like really instill a big picture plan. But now we're back on that. Go back to Tarasova and Morozov.
I just think for them that they have to look at, why are we not doing clean longs? That to me would be their whole investigate this, because this is, and I also don't understand when they do have issues on the side-by-side jumps, they can land a little flat-footed, and their 3-jump combo is often dicey. And I would look at that. But I think that
although their 3-jump combo got a positive GOE, but then she couldn't muster out the double sow cow. That's why I was like, well, so which is it? Are you? Again, it doesn't seem like a technical limitation. It seems like a concentration limitation.
So the way that the Russians train a lot is, if you ever watch the old they train in a similar way to, if you ever watch Marina Zueva's ice dance teams practice, when people would post the practice videos with Marilyn, Charlie, and Tessa and Scott when they were together, they often do like the first couple of elements, take a break for the middle of the program, and then do the last third of the program. And they would do that like a couple of times, but it's never the same as doing a full run through. Like a full run through is harder. Even if you do multiple sections, you still see time and time again that the skaters don't usually achieve the same results. Sometimes they can do more complicated things and get there, and they peak maybe differently, and there's a whole science, and they have their argument to it. But with a team like Taras and Morozov, whatever they're doing in their training, this is the team that should be number one in the world. I mean, Sui and Han have that intangible magic. They don't really have a second side-by-side triple that's very great, but everything else is very wonderful. And they have injury problems. This should be the team that's capitalizing on that. They have the overall aesthetic, but they can't put it together. At the end of the day, it's like a beautiful house that has like a cracked foundation in it, and you're like, what is the problem? Like,
and they know how to seal it, and they're just not. That's what seems so confusing.
Like we're painting over it, we're sealing it, and the crack is coming back again.
Exactly. Now, in terms of the actual content this year, like, I still don't think I Feel Good is a super quality choice, but what it does give you is a sense of speed and energy. And I used to think this about Jeremy Abbott when he would skate to his super like innie pieces that were like schmaltzy and emo and all this sort of stuff. And it slows down your pace. It slows down, I would think, your internal pulse, because you're emoting through soup. You know what I mean? You're not on fire.
Which is depending on your personality and where you are. It could be good or bad.
Exactly. So this at least does create a feeling of energy in speed and strength. So I will give them that side of it. And that's the only reason I could think you would ever use that music, because it's such a fail outside of that. But in the free skate, their final lift with all those varying positions right into the final position was something so much more interesting choreographically than I'm used to from them. So that I appreciated. That at the end I was like, oh, it's kind of creepy.
Does she need to dye her hair or something? And I don't mean that in like a really misogynistic way. What I'm saying is that you're trying to emphasize and highlight them, and there's something about their free skate, and I don't know if it's the color of her dress or something, but to me
she fades away.
It's like washed out, and the music is washed out, the costume is washed out. They're not the most emotive people. Can you enhance it and change the color? There's something that's a little off, but that you can work with. They're such a good pair. They should be so good. And you're like, what is,
Yeah, it's like you've been given every privilege, and you are trying to not take advantage of it. It seems
honestly, they have the most gorgeous extension. The most just natural. And they were they're matched well. We're starting with things that we talk about, like Megan and Eric not matched well. Matched well. Good extension.
Right, I agree. Yeah, they have everything. Yeah.
So, wonder there. The new German team, I thought, weaker elements, but promising in a way. I really liked the short program. I thought was really nice.
Yeah, totally. Here, wait, I think I even wrote that stuff down. Oh, Minerva. You mean Miss Minerva over there? Yeah, it's wow, that's vintage.
That's a name.
Yeah, that's a thing. Yeah. Oh, I applauded them because in a world where I thought the synchronization of spins would be something that like you could just assume from most of the teams. It really wasn't in the short, especially. And
Well,
the
they've
Germans
changed
did
the
have nice
spin rules
things.
too about the variation. So that's one of the reasons when like we see Chris and Alexis struggling with the. Everyone is kind of struggling with the spins this year, and that's having to do with.
So is it that they're grappling with a new number of positions,
like different variations that are counting and not counting, and what is considered a difficult variation, and that's why everyone is trying something.
Well, that explains it, because I was like, how come this is suddenly so problematic for everyone? Okay, it's because everyone's basically doing new versions of what they had always been doing.
Yes.
Okay. So that makes sense to me.
Except for Ken and Leduc, who always put the leg over the head, and they're just like, they've always been out there with it,
Yeah, so, I gotcha. What I have written down on my notes that is, I'm not ready for some of these pairs to be relevant teams. Just like, I feel like, it's so far in this Grand Prix, it's getting my head wrapped around like, oh, I guess this is what Paris looks like now.
Give it time.
Because
give it to the second half of the year.
The last Olympic Games, it was such an embarrassment of depth. I mean, it was insane. And now things have shifted. And I was like, okay, this was an unusual Paris event, I felt.
Give it time. Give it time.
Yes.
Like I've told you on Satoko's programs, you will come around to them, Jonathan.
And I did. I have already.
It's next level, but let's go to the men first. Okay.
Okay, all right.
Overwhelming thoughts. Okay. I have to tell you that, so I was watching this and tweeting, and not angry tweeting, but just ridiculous tweeting. Okay, so we knew that they changed the rules for the under rotations. That it's much stricter this year about what counts. The leeway is not there anymore. With the under rotation.
What seems like the benefit of the doubt that they would give you, they're no longer giving.
Which, you know what?
Yeah,
they rarely were always giving it anyway. So someone like Vincent Zoe had problems last year with the rotations and the jumps. It's not, his jump technique has not gotten better. He was temporarily rotating a little bit more, getting a little bit more height and snap between nationals and the Olympics. It seemed to have gotten better. And the beginning of Worlds, and we know he's had a back injury, and he's been off the ice, and was there an ankle injury? I don't know. There was injuries and problems. He also not the best skating skills, and still got generous components. But what I have to say is that Tara and Johnny were acting like his jumps were clean to the naked eye and clean to them, but not clean to the camera. Now, I was talking to a judge who was saying it might have been where Johnny was sitting. But regardless, is that they were going on, and I was watching them on TV, and
it was pretty clear.
It was pretty clear, and also, you also know that he under rotates, and also, why do they talk so effing much on TV? They really,
I know
it. So I've talked to Sandra about this, and she said that, how her school of commentary and sports commentary is that you let the sport be the action, and you're there to enhance it. But I feel like when we watch Tara and Johnny, it's like they think that they're the show and the skaters are the backdrop, like it's Mystery Science Theater.
And not to give Scott Hamilton more credit than he deserves, but when he kind of had what at the time I thought was a bit of a snarky response, and he was like, when I commentated, when Dick Button commentated, it was always about the skating and the skaters, and I hope that stays. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that it stays. Now we are listening to a quirky podcast that happens to have skating on in the background.
I find it really distracting because you can never get into the performance. And I get that we have to talk about...
Or hear the music.
Yeah.
Where's the music? Yeah.
But to me, it's become really obnoxious, and just even Terry's snark with them, and yes, it's... And I don't want to always watch Canadian coverage. I really like the Eurosport. I feel like they have a nice blend. To me, what I like about Mark Henretti and Eurosport is that the skating happens and they react to it, right? What NBC does, they react with us and they explain, and then maybe they'll add something, but they'll also let the music happen and they find their moments. What NBC does is that they set the narrative, and they feel like we are not smart enough or know enough just to appreciate skating, that we have to talk about it in set rivalries and storylines, and we're saying that Vincent and Nathan are going to be competitive rivals, even though everyone knows that that's not true. Unless, like,
and why does it have to be true? It doesn't have to be true for people to sit down and enjoy beautiful skating, beautiful music, cool jumps.
Why don't you
don't
say,
have
like,
to dumb it down.
Here's someone that, is an up-and-comer in the world. Here's someone who's the world champion, who's,
Right.
Also, like, it just feels really put on and pushed and annoying. Really
But
annoying. Like,
it transcends skating, like, because I don't watch those kinds of like America's Got Talent shows or whatever for a myriad of reasons, but one of which is everyone's trying to tell me how to feel.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything is so staged, and they're like, hey audience, you're going to be surprised now, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's about to be surprised, and then it's like, oh gosh. And they told us to be outraged, Johnny and Tara. They were like, this is terrible that this is happening. And I would get random Facebook messages from people like that I don't even know really watch skating. They're like, terrible about Vincent's scores. And I was like, not really, but why is this now the narrative?
And
like,
why is this news? So, like, I remember talking to Megan about Vincent last year, and she's like, why are they pushing Vincent and acting like he rotates these jumps when he never does? And she's like, he's going to get hurt or just never get the points. And that was...
Or both.
Yeah.
Both is apparently what happens.
But also, so, like, you keep hammering down the same technique, and it's not getting better. It's just becoming more reinforced. So, he doesn't look better with the rotations. And you could see it in real time. The axle was clear as day cheated, which Johnny acknowledged. But the Lutz I saw in real time, and you could see the hook on the landing, and you see the snow. But the bigger thing to me is the hook and the wobble when you watch the landing and what you know to look for. There's a look of a clean edge, and there's a click of a, the Hughes landing.
Right.
There's a look to it. And it's strange to me, and maybe he really honestly didn't see it. But then I don't think that it's beneficial to act like the judges are doing a disservice and being unfair to a skater that you were trying
because that kind of commentary is ridiculous. It doesn't help. It incites a weirdness and a rejection of the sport, and I don't...
Yeah, and it's strange. Like, to me, it was like a weird attitude, and I don't get if they're just pushing something, they really believe it, but they're not the ones that are watching practice, which is also another thing, because when Peggy and Dick were there, they did, and, like, definitely Sandra watched practices with Scott, and it's just strange to me that they're not interested in being journalists or reporters of the sport. They're more interested in the fact that, like, they're covering an event and what their makeup and their hair is, and the fact that they're stars and
self-promotion. It's just self-promoting
and, like, going on their other things, and it's like a really weird narcissistic behavior that's, like, going on, and NBC's promoting it, but it's gotten really... Like, why are we learning that Satoko went to a sleep scientist? Well, why don't you point out what makes her such a beautiful skater? Or just let us watch her skate.
Or shut up, because this part is really beautiful and magical, but I can't if you're like, nah, 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 nah. Yeah, I agree.
And they try to, like, one-up each other, and it's really... really... For years I wouldn't watch them, but we had to watch them live in this event, so that was... Okay. It's always annoying when we have to rediscover them. I remember during the Olympics, I went and was watching the live feed, so we didn't have to hear them. We were listening to that Australian woman who was lovely and also reacted to the skating. She was nondescript, not a star. I don't know who she was. She was fantastic. Whoever the person was during the Olympics loved you, by the way.
She let the spotlight be where it should be.
Even Ted Barton, who is so overly positive to the point that it's a little much... Nice.
He
reacts
waits
to the skating. Waits. Lets the skating be the star. Nice guy. Anything that I don't love is just...
Because you know what? This is... In case I needed to remind you, it's not football.
No.
It's a performance. Yeah. In the same way, could you imagine watching a pop singer and having someone be like, did you know that Christina Aguilera also likes chocolate? Like, who cares? Shut up.
Satoko wasn't eating enough calories, and she's also been to a sleep scientist, and now she says she feels much better. And
tell us that when they're cleaning up the flowers. You know what I mean? Like...
Yes.
Or don't.
Or the warm-up, or whatever,
Yeah, exactly.
And like, what?
But yeah, Vincent's a tricky one, because I see him at least pretending to be artistic. He will never be, obviously, artistic. And you do wonder why they don't.
They're trying
at
to.
what point, I see an effort, and so I do have to give credit that the effort is being given. But, you know, Tom's thing sometimes it may be coming true here. Like, everyone wants Vincent to be more beautiful. Well, Vincent's not going to maybe really skate as beautifully as you ever want him to. So let's clean up the jumps.
So he went to Mia Hamada over the summer, and she was like, you need to learn how to skate on an edge. Like, that woman who seems so nice and wonderful, and she was like, there's a lot that needs to be fixed here. So they have tried to bring in Tom Dixon, but like there's a lot of work to get done, and who knows how committed the level. There's just a lot of that situation to begin with. You know, I think.
Yeah, there's already 300 chefs in that kitchen, and I just kept thinking.
A lot of chefs, a lot of Facebook, Instagram posts, a lot of just, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on.
It just gives you an insight maybe into the chaos that's happening within. So.
Yeah. I think Jimmy Ma, still a lot of fun charisma there. You know, he's kind of a fun addition to the event. I thought about Breshna getting the silver medal.
I'm sorry, I don't normally like refer to all my notes so often, and I probably should. I mean, I should try to keep things up. But I did write Jimmy Ma as like a thing on my notes, and I wrote because I guess this is a person we talk about now. And yeah, he's got a thing he's trying to do, and okay, great. That was all I had to say about that. Okay.
So, Breshna, what I thought he really benefited from here is the fact that the elements that he does do, he rotates fully. You know, he doesn't...
And beautifully. His air position and rotation is so beautiful to watch.
Which we knew a decade ago, by the way. He was, like, supposed to beat Adam at the Junior Worlds of 2009 and then didn't because he doesn't really...
Right.
Didn't ever really train his run-throughs. But you see, when he really works hard, it seems Raphael's probably spending more time with him because Nathan is off at Yale. So Breshna is benefiting from that. So also...
And I loved it. In the short with that, the quad sow cow triple toe, like nothing, just exquisite. And then the pop on the flip. And so I tried to send you that clip, but it was like a little hard to hear when they're sitting in the kiss and cry, and he's like, hey, that was a pretty good combo. Yeah. And this is all paraphrasing. And Rob goes, who cares if there's no flip?
Put a microphone on that guy. That would be...
I know.
Tara and Johnny would talk over it, but put the microphone on him because that's what we want to be hearing, you know.
That's the real entertainment. Well, because it's genuine. It's not actually forced. And then when the score came up, he was like, see, you could get real scores. Mm-hmm. Like in response to the flip, like these were the judges want to help. Mm-hmm. Same thing with Chris and Alexa. The judges want to help. Yeah. But if you don't let them, they can only do so much. You know what I mean?
Vincent, like at least he's getting the levels now, but the GOEs with the as we've known with the negative, the +5, -5, which I love so much. If you're only in the ones and twos, you're losing a lot of points. You know, and someone like Vincent who's getting a 1 on his spin. Or a 0, or you're losing points there, and that is going to be a really big thing moving forward. Also, thing about the pairs, interesting note, and we'll get to this. I'll do a video on this. If you do not have transitions before your throws, you can't get a 4 or a 5. The maximum score, if the throw is perfect, it starts at +3, and you have to deduct from there. So if the teams that don't have Alexa and Chris don't do a transition into their throw triple loop, because it's new for them and it's not the most comfortable. But they do a transition before the Lutz. Other teams, when they don't do the transition before their throws, like Ashley and Tim are not big on the transitions. You start from a lower point. So it's just like a lot of different things of where points are gained and lost before these things. So you see like a lot of those lifts or different things with the, creatively to get transitions. Nathan, the hair, I guess we're being... Here's the thing. I know Phil really wants this to work. Clearly, I guess we're just trying to hold during the Grand Prix, and then he'll try to ramp up before Nationals, and maybe he will take like 1 or 2 classes in the spring, and then like spend more time with Roth and fly back and forth. But this situation of doing a full course load in this is clearly not going to hold. And we can pretend that it's going to hold the way we pretended Michelle was a full-time college student, and then it wasn't, right? Like... Not gonna hold. Also, the hair is really long. I don't think it's like he just didn't look polished in a way that, like, put a little stage makeup on, perhaps. Like, I don't know, like, it just didn't give off, like, I don't think he's in any danger of competing with Han Yu when I see him at this point.
But again,
it was a great program.
A situation where the programs are like revving up and his performance level. Now, I don't know if that's compensatory because somehow he knows that the jumps are failing him. So now he really's got to sell. But he's done a lot of tours, a lot of performances, a lot of massive experiences. And I do see that benefit. And I think this other will be quickly remedied. But I know this is not the case with Nathan, but sometimes this kind of casual thing, one never wants to get the impression that they didn't care to take this event seriously or something, like it wasn't a priority. Which
I think he knows he can win with lesser content, at least one or two Grand Prix, because he won't be against Shoma or Han Yu on the Grand Prix, right? Like if they're the top 3 ranked in the world, and the way that they staggered the events until the final. So he doesn't have to really have his technical arsenal together. And we know like the way he adds quads and things. But so maybe he doesn't have to ramp up. It just seems to me like you're kind of, it's a risk. This situation is a risk without like, and you're also hoping that everything goes perfectly and that there isn't an injury or there isn't an illness or that you're not, that you're going to be able to maximize all the time you have with Rafael and that this is all going to work perfectly. Right. The chances, you're world champion maybe once in your life, maybe twice in your life if you're lucky, or maybe, but this is his stage to really go for the Olympics. He already blew his first opportunity that was really handed to him. It didn't go well, because of the changing of the elements and that situation. He's now world champion. He's a great opportunity to at least be a top skater in the world. Yeah,
we have to remember he won the final program. He won the long at the Olympics. I mean, again, they're ready for him.
Yes. Yeah. And also now Hanyu's doing the quad loop and, things change. Like you have to up your game too. And the other men aren't staying stagnant. Like Javi's not there, but also Kolyada is he is nipping at your heels too. So there are top men in the world. I just think that there are a lot of men competing for not a lot of spots. You need to make most of every opportunity. I know you want to be a student. This situation though, like the costumes, not the most flattering. Like maybe we call Vera Wang again. Like it just seems to me like there's like a little bit of a rebellion that seems that I know growth needs to happen, and I think that he will get there, and I think that he does have a lot, but I think if you really want to be a top skater, that's when you need to be going for your choreography touch-ups and working with Sam Chouinard and bringing out even more to this program and working with Rafael and using that. But it just seems...
Well, because in addition to the jumps, the triple axel and the short did look like one of his finer triple axels, I thought. Yeah. And all of this effort into the programs and all this sort of thing, he has a very rounded quality. Yes. And so Shay, because she's smart, was like, go with it. Let's create like a curvy kind of thing. But as we were talking about why I like Dmitry Aliev so much is that open, expansive, vulnerable, exposed thing. He's really doing the opposite. And sometimes it's hard to like feel like you can like get in to see what he's doing. You know what I mean? And it is very interesting now. So it'll just... I think now that he's in it, adjustments are going to be made.
Yeah.
Being around it again.
They have to be made.
I think he'll be fine, though, honestly. Well, I think he will make whatever the right choice is.
I think he'll stay in the top 3 in the world. I don't know if he's going to... I don't know. It's hard to say what will happen moving forward. I think that they're not doing anything new technically this year. I think they're going to in like a holding pattern and trying to hold consistent, and hold...
Yeah. Well, because the real change and the real added difficulty is the situation. That is their added difficulty for right now. Yeah. So, yeah.
And trying to improve the programs and things like that. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. It was a better outing here. The long program was spectacular. So I don't like the short costume.
I do. The costume. No. Yeah. You know what it is? In the back, he has that vest. And so the shirt comes out in between the vest and the pants. And this sounds absurd. But what it does is it feeds into kind of an overall maybe haphazard, sloppy look with the hair and like kind of not the same attention to the face and the here, and then it's rounded, and you know, maybe some of the jumps, the quad flip issue, like it all kind of adds up to leave you with an experience that was like, huh, that seemed kind of
I think a color would be nice in the short. Just like a red and black.
A
solid or a
just something that gave us more line.
Or a color block.
Quite
with
honestly.
Like a diagonal or something. You know, and
Yeah.
I thought that
Which again, I thought the Vera Wang costume was brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
The stripe was to enhance his performance. And this vest situation detracts from the performance.
Even the free skate, I thought that if he wore something like the Olympics or what he wore at the show when he did it, it was more effective for it when we first saw this program. So just in giving an overall
I didn't mind
look.
the free as much. It just wouldn't be what I would choose.
Look,
Yeah.
you're selling an image. You're selling anything to get those extra points, and you want to look like a regal world champion that you are at the end of the day when you're going for number one in the world. That's just
my thought. Yeah.
You're like the Michael Jordan of figure skating. You know,
Right.
Own it. You know, like
Right.
your Air Jordan. You know, don't dim your.
Don't be sloppy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your light. Also, so Hubble and Donahue, have to say, thought that they were. I got the program so much more. I know it's a cliche that they were at altitude and it was early and everything, but with the added training and not being in altitude and just watching it and watching how well they moved and how much more confident they looked, to me they looked so mature. And even as much as I don't love Kissing You, and this is not my favorite vehicle, I just saw such maturity and like a modern approach and just great skating skills, especially in the free dance. I really thought that you could just see how talented they are as skaters. Like they really, to me, like, last year they were fighting to be the best team in the country, and now you're like, wow, they really always were. Like they really always
We always said they were.
And people were always mad at us for it, but they really looked like they really are amazing. Like when you watch them, like they looked like, wow.
It's in the pattern, thanks for teaching me all the things. It's big sweeping edges, the literal ice coverage that you can tell that they are providing, the strength they get from one push that then just propels them forward. They are not pumping for extra speed. They are not putting their other foot down. Like just the sheer strength and breadth of like what they can do with edges is incredible. Now, having said that, I am curious if the Romeo and Juliet is more intriguing in person. Because again, it's not my favorite. Yeah, I know, but they say that, but I would rather just decide for myself. Again, I love them. It almost seems like they're trying to recreate that feeling of, remember Johnny criticized the French because he was saying, it's like we're spying on them. And he made that seem like it was a bad thing. And I was like, I know, and that's why I love it.
He wasn't the most outgoing skating either. He was more of an inward skater anyway. He needs to shut up. I'm sorry, but
I know. But regardless, it was that idea of that, like I was spying on two dancers sharing like an intimate moment, like I feel when I watch the French. I felt like they were kind of trying to recreate that vibe here, like they were together and in it, and he was sensitive and doting, and like they were doing all this stuff.
Well, it is Romeo and Juliet.
It is, but it was a Romeo and Juliet that was in it, like. That shut us out a little bit, and I understand that it tried to do that in a we're connecting to each other moment and you're seeing it, but I missed a little bit of their power and open performer projection, even though I know it's Romeo and Juliet. Romeo and Juliet's also like a massive, like splashy opera and a massive splashy ballet that does have to create that outward performance. So I think it is capable, but what do you think?
Well, to me, modern Romeo and Juliet is not the same as like ballet or opera, Romeo and Juliet, whatever. I was seeing a modern thing. I was looking at their transitions and their overall skating quality and skill, and I saw a lot that to me looked stronger. They looked like strong men and women, like skating. And I felt that it's different than the French. They're never going to be able to give you the same as the French. And competing with the
They're
French...
stronger than the French in actual strength and power, I think.
Well, they're both strong ass people. They're like,
Yeah,
there's a big
yeah.
energy, like a strong energy to them. And the French have like a lilty energy. And it's going to be very different. And I don't think that they're at the same level now, but I could see where they're pushing them to kind of own it more and be very different. Like, they're not Tessa and Scott. They're not the French. They have their own identity that they're pushing and like owning these very strong skill that they have that
to me is a very international thing. Like, to me, the Shibutanis excelled, but they always looked very American.
And follower. They didn't have their own look, their own like
their own
voice.
Perspective. Their own voice. And then, but Hubble and Donahue have one that is very North American friendly, but also very accessible to Europeans.
The Shibs were like, it was a Marina voice that wasn't necessarily their independent. Like, and I think the issue is that like in Papadakis and Cizeron, he is a stronger skater. She has this personality that brings you in, and they kind of work together, right? And that's kind of how their chemistry works. With Tessa and Scott, they were like really strong and romantic, and Tessa was very beautiful, and Scott was like a really really strong partner, and they were both good skaters, and that was like a different thing. With Madison and Zach, she is so like physically strong and also such a strong skater, and so is he, that they're almost like equals in a different way, and there's no like submissive energy.
Yes, yes.
Because
it's kind of cool.
It is kind of cool. Like it's gonna take like it's different. It's.
Was it Yuta Mueller who like competed in like same-sex pairs, or was that like
yes.
It was like somebody funny. It has that kind of element. I'm looking at two legit equals.
She's kind of like Wonder Woman in a way,
Wonder Woman is a great comparison. Yeah,
like she is not subservient to Zach at all, and like I don't get the fact that like there's a different kind of chemistry between them that's interesting. Like she's the leader. She is the leader of the team.
But he's not passive. He doesn't seem passive about it.
But he does know that he like has to worship her when they skate, kind of, in a way. Like he kind of has to watch and look. The thing about Zach that's kind of great is that you could tell that the footwork and like Zach's overall skating skills, like it's so easy for him. His game is like the focus and the nerves and skating up that way, but the actual mechanics of his blade are so natural, especially in the free dance, that you can kind of really see. Zahorsky and Guerrero, I want to say, have
just really quick before we leave Hubble and Donahue. I think that them getting that deduction for like the fall out of the final pose, come on, that's silly, because they did get the fall for the final pose and the costume deduction, and I was like, I'm sorry, if we have to go back and forth on what constitutes a fall, like then to me it's like that quarter turn, like. Will you guys just calm down? Give them the point. It was at the end, It wasn't like the Canadian Jamie.
Oh, Jamie.
Yeah, like it wasn't something so absurd, Like, come on, this was fine. Okay.
Anyway, Zahorsky and Guerrero. To me, I think that there's something inherently interesting about her. I like it more than the Italians, and I don't know. Like, there's just them doing Blues for Clue.
The hair.
I know that people were like, it's so like copycat of Usava, but at the same point, we haven't seen an ice dance, free dance to this music in a long time that I can remember, and to me, it kind of worked. It just.
We haven't seen Usava in almost 30 years. Bring in some Usava. Go for it. Be imitated.
Kind of
That's
music.
A great person to imitate.
I was talking to Sandra about this, and I was saying to her, I find it kind of embarrassing that like. On some level, the fact that Celine Dion is somehow like considered fresh and relevant in ladies skating when Karen Kadavi was doing it in 1996 at the moment when it was like actually current, and it's weird to me that like, but Mariah Bell, it has a fresh look to it for her. And Lona Hendricks, it may be the cheap music edits, but to me it's embarrassing. Like it's because it's not edited well. It's not edited well, and to me that's the problem with it. And they try all the Russian variations, and it's all like, it needs to be less is more, and it's not matching the music, and her whole style approach to skating, it doesn't match it fully. Anyway,
Right.
not the right choice for her. But interesting, getting back to why this music, this is a kind of timeless piece that will like always kind of feel a little bit, if you sell it correctly, feel fresh and current, and it's interesting. It's not your everyday piece of music that's just generically skating. Like, this works. Hopefully too many people don't use it, but it works for like a Zahorsky and Guerrero in a way that I feel like La La Land doesn't hold up. I really loved it at the moment. Like, I saw the movie and I liked it. And I liked the movie. I didn't love the movie. I liked it. Right? Like, I had a good Sunday night at the movie theater. Okay, like I went on a school like to see it, or work night, and enjoyed it and enjoyed myself. Had a moment with da 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 in the audition song, and it was all well and good. And I was like, oh, that was kind of a interesting night. But it faded for me. Like, I didn't have the desire to like relive it ever, really. Like once I watched it.
Correct.
And to me,
that part I agree with you on.
To me, the idea of seeing it in a free dance and seeing like Ashley's program like a year later, and then seeing it 2 years later, I'm like, who gives it? Who? Like, it just doesn't do it for me. It doesn't hold up. It doesn't. It didn't have any substance. It didn't have a.
Correct.
Anyway.
It was not a historical piece.
Yeah.
And that's even when we talk about some of these skating. Some of these programs are historical programs that we will go back and watch. Some of the movies you don't care.
So what does have historical to me, Satoko's programs. Jonathan, it is so fantastic. That short program, Despero, with the hand and the movement and even the choreography in between the elements by the double axel and before the triple flip, and she's doing the combination better, and then the step sequence at the end is a total +5 for me, followed by a +5 layback spin. This is why she is just dominating the Grand Prix, even with the jumps are not the best and the under rotations if she can do the jumps well enough, to me you put her next to Brady and it's like
I see.
World of difference. Like, it is just like you're looking at like the Van Gogh of like, a painter next to like Thomas Kincaid. Like, you're just looking at like, oh my God, you do one thing very well, you do everything very well. To me,
and she's making beautiful statements. She's making beautiful arcing sentences with her skating. Like, it just transcends all of it. It sees a bigger picture and impacts you on a level more than let me check protocols.
Yes. Her skating to me has taken such a step forward this year. Even with the tango, which is not my favorite vehicle for her, she's so committed to the choreography, and she keeps going back and working with Tom, that I saw a lot.
We see it growing. Yeah.
It was growing in the movement and the selling of the nuances of the choreography that I was really seeing it here. Like, I saw such a confidence and a commitment, and I know that Adam said she had BDE, which is awkward to say, and I had to remind myself what that was. And odd choice.
Adam said that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, awkward. But anyway, of all the things that I've ever gotten in trouble for saying that a female skater has BDE is strange for me. Anyway. And like, whoever, Google it for yourself. I'm not answering what that is.
We're just going to keep going on.
She has a lot of confidence. Okay, I think is what he was saying. But awkward. She really sold every nuance of that choreography, and I liked the costume, and it was interesting and enhancing, and it all worked. Like, it was natural. It was from within. It was like becoming her.
It was from within, and I wrote the tango is changing for me. Again, I don't think these are performances that will define her necessarily, or programs rather.
The short will for me. The short is so brilliant, and it hasn't even had its moment yet. It hasn't even reached its full potential, and the long will get better. by like a Japanese nationals or something. But to me, it's taking her forward in skating. Like it's moving her forward and pushing her relevance to a point where we weren't sure with the jumps if it was going to be the case. As they
pushing her relevance. That's a really good way to put it, and that's a brilliant thing for them to have set out to do. You know,
if the components and everything were judged fairly, and you give Zagitova the points for the jumps, I don't think
which she deserves.
Which she deserves. I don't think that her programs are at the level of her jumps.
No.
Nor do I think that Satoko's jumps
yeah,
at the level of her programs. But you're see what I'm saying? Like they should be closer together in the overall points because of the overall thing of what they do. And maybe they need to weight the components more, I was thinking too. Like maybe it's time that they need to like increase the weight of the components. But
well, especially with plus fives. Yeah. I mean, to balance it.
Because when Johnny was saying that it's helping the artistry, I'm like, it's helping the cleanliness, not necessarily the artistry.
And those are two different things, Johnny.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Their talking points were really strange and really annoying in the free skate. I spent 2 hours with them that I will never get back. So,
amazing.
Kiori Sakamoto is rounding into her energy and her work with Benoit. It seems like Benoit loves, you know how we talked about at the angle? He loves like a back 3 turn out of a jump into a pose. That's like an angular movement. Yeah. Like he really has this style and it's coming together more. Again with her, the white ombre gray costume is like a little bit washed out with her.
For the free.
Yeah.
For the
short, I loved it actually. I really liked the overall program.
The music is tough for me in the short, and I thought it looked like she had like a parachute around her hip or something.
Yes.
Something about it was distracting that way to me.
But I liked the overall program or something. I don't know. I was like,
you can like the program.
I was liking it more. I was liking it more.
Yeah. Well, I just like her also. There's something like the jumps are great. The extension, she's working on it. Again, I will always.
She doesn't extend well.
Someone a nod. I'm like, you're trying. Do you think it's a little better than it was before, though?
Yes, and even when she's not on 2 feet, though, like she hangs the other leg down that it looks like she's on 2 feet. Even when she's not on 2 feet, like she doesn't extend the leg out. So it's a little strange. Like, you know how Satoko, when she's on one edge, the other leg is extended behind her, and she's always moving her body well. Like,
right.
Kaori's just like not on that same level, but. I think that Carol Yamaguchi is a really supportive coach of her, you know, and I really like the whole, like, Mr. Sato thing that I know you loved with Kazuka.
I do love that. It doesn't work, but it seems like it's a really nice thing.
I really buy into it.
Okay.
Also,
are we going to talk about it?
Which one?
Our girl.
Brady?
No. Our girl Maren, and I don't know when to let go. I'm just going down with the shit because I'm like, it'll be worth it if one day
we're going down.
I know we're going down.
Again,
I know.
Why were Johnny and Tara acting like they didn't realize that the jumps were under? They were clear.
Because maybe they don't. Maybe they don't know.
Tara's an Olympic champion. She doesn't know what an under-rotated jump looks like. To me, I struggle with that. Like that...
Yeah, exactly. But Terry Gannon, someone pointed out, I was fortunately primarily avoiding the NBC broadcast, but someone did say Tara was talking about how weird things can be after the Olympics, competing after the Olympics. And Terry goes, well, how would you know? I thought that was a pretty funny moment. But now Maren gave me exactly the worst thing she could have, which was a short program that had flaws, all these under rotations and things like that.
But a lovely inherent quality,
and gave me hope. It was ebullient. That was the only word I could think of. It had this like joyous energy to it, and it's a buoyance. She had speed after her first jump, like. The speed out of the jumps were interesting. It was just that the rotations were a little iffy, but I thought, hey, this might be it. Maybe this has inspired her because she looked very thrilled after the short. Mm-hmm. And then I
wasn't thrilled.
Oh dear. Yeah.
So because I love her so much, I'm even harder on her, right? Like when I like someone,
I know.
Alexa, when I like someone, I become more disappointed. You know, it's a blessing and a curse. So with Marin, we had heard from Mia Hamada that she wasn't the most hardworking skater, right? And that's when she was itty bitty and things were going well, and she's now become a woman, and it's going to be harder because your jump timing all changes. They have a second problem. Like, so they're changing everything, but she's also the hardest worker. And then Ralph couldn't even get Ashley to do the full programs. So is he going to really be a Nazi about that with you? I don't really know. We've heard that she's not a hard worker by the American standards in the rink. And maybe it's because of the injury, but it's been for several months now, so I don't know. To me, this looked like cumulative, because we could see, and maybe the ankle injury's been going on for a while, I don't know. We just know that since she has been with Raphael, she's not been the hardest worker with doing the full programs, and that it just falls into the same narrative that we've heard about her from several people, is that she had so much talent and she was able to ride on it for so long. But now as she's trying to push forward, it looks like she needs to just work a little bit harder on the ice, off the ice, and it'll all come together. Because every single person that watched her skate, even that hasn't watched her in a while, was like, even my boyfriend was like, wow, she really is, there's something there. Like, it's
exquisite. Yeah. She has the thing that really outside of Satoko, no one else there even came close to having.
Yeah.
And she just has it in spades. But I was also
Does she want it?
Yeah. Right. Or does she do it because she just knows she's supposed to be doing that? Or so, like the kiss and cry with Ralph after the long was very confusing. And then I thought, and I do not mean this in a disrespectful way, but I do wonder what's being lost in translation.
I don't know.
Like, he was giving like a full-blown lecture, and English is his second language, and he's giving it to someone else. Or please, English is probably like his eighth language, but like he's like kind of lecturing Marin, who also, I can't tell if she's stunned because of the performance or if she legit is like, you have to concentrate so hard to.
And then you want to look nice for the cameras, like, you know, the U.S. skaters always put on that fake smile that like we see. So
and the nonsense with the team coat, I hate it. It looks so awkward. No one wants to put it on. I don't understand the point of it.
Well, she has to because of sponsors and everything. But it's weird. It looked really like it's a strange thing, and she was upset and embarrassed, and I mean, it was a really rough skate. Well, and even now, how do you feel about her doing does she do the loop toe in the short? Because the other combination isn't consistent right now, and that's what she could do, and that's to get the points and to hopefully get the rotation. But she was better at Nebelhorn than she was here, and it's maybe the injury happened since, but they're also, when you're injured, you have to rely on training, and if the training's not there, and it's like it deposits in the bank, so it's a little, again, there's a lot going on in that situation, and she has moved to a new country and a new coach, and it's all different, and you're not as confident, and you're wondering where this is all going, and now there are more expectations on you to really live up to your potential, and that has to be hard when you're and everyone's talking about the Russians, and everyone's talking about how good they are, and they're coming up, and it's a lot, so...
Yeah, of course. And it's just this age.
But what hasn't changed is her talent and her charisma and the way she moves and the way her natural skating ability that she obviously probably had to work for or, had an aptitude for as well. But if she could refine the love and the passion and just really go for this and believe that it is possible, she will really make a huge splash, because again, the judges she has that thing, and maybe it's not fair that like maybe Brady works every day to have just a little more of what like someone like Marin Honda has, and she just isn't getting it, and the judges can't, like they don't, there's only so much they can push Brady. The Marin has something that's maybe not fair, but she has that Sasha Cohen it factor, like that Yuka Sato
that you are inherently born with.
Yeah.
And so it's a waste. But it is one of those examples with her and Brady. Like, it's like an old cliche that happens in music and stuff, but it's that, what is it? It's hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
Yeah.
And this is 100% that example. Yeah. And it's too bad. Also, on a totally camp note, does she have pink blades?
Yes.
Did she always have pink blades?
It's more recent, I believe. I don't know if she's always
Because,
had them, but she definitely this season.
or maybe I just watched it on a bigger screen this time, but I was
And
like,
she's wearing the
whoa,
pink
those
costume
are
and the red, and it all yes. I
on the
find it
panties or whatever. That was very
the
strange.
flowers.
Yeah. Yeah, that
I
was very
don't
odd.
want to talk about it. I hate that word, and I don't
Yeah,
want to talk
yeah.
about her. Anyway,
Great.
moving on. Brady. To me, I get the concept of the free. She really
She got rid of the headband.
she can't relax her knees, and that's the biggest problem here. Is that and there's like a rigidity to her body that she just like struggles with, and that's why the
Right.
angular movement looks kind of forced. But I get what they're doing. Um,
Yeah.
and there's like a thought. There is a thought behind the free skate that you could tell.
I think Benoit's very talented. And if there's a
Yeah.
disconnect, I don't know that it's necessarily in his.
Also, like
I
it
don't
may
know.
be kind of her personality. Like she's more uptight, and you could tell she's very driven. Um, yeah, there's a lot that still needs to be changed, and there's a lot that they're trying, and like in the overall aesthetic, to me, the short, like the dress and the choreography and everything looks really like put on. Even the loop combination, like it's very ambitious, and with some the plus five,
Right.
minus five, and the way that they're now judging the jumps, it's going to be hard for her. Like she can sometimes have the under rotations, not all of her jumps, but some of her jumps, and I think it's a struggle for her. She's not the easiest skater to watch. It's just not relaxing.
Yeah, like in the shorts, she had this like gorgeous triple flip, but then like the triple Lutz single loop and like the other stuff, parts of it looked a little weak.
And it looks like work.
Almost.
It looks like work when you watch it.
Yeah, and I appreciated her fight, and she even said as much when she got off the ice that she was very proud of her fight, and I appreciate that. She strikes me. I've been guest teaching at a university, so I'm in like education mode, and there are a couple of people that I was teaching here that were like, "Well, is that right? Am I doing this right? I want to just do it right." And I was like, there is no right. Like there is like expression, and that's my thing about Brady's. Like probably like I want to rotate this, I want to fight for this, I'm going to do this transition, and yet
Yes, like
she
there's a
kind of
rod
is-
up her body. Like she needs to relax.
Yeah,
the relax
she's
into
gonna-
the edge.
She's going to do the choreography perfectly.
Yeah.
But it's like you don't do choreography perfectly. You add more. You feel it. You don't do it.
Ooze, as they were saying.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
she never
and so it
gets
seems
into
like,
the ice. Like she never relaxes her body into the ice and caresses it. You know how Hanyu can like
And I-
caress the ice in that video of him just doing the crossovers back and forth. Like he gets the Japanese, they get into the ice and the edge.
Right.
Even Sakamoto. That's what Brady's missing. She's like on top of the ice and like I'm trying to do it and I'm trying to be right and the arms are a lot. But yeah, it's
And then with Sophia, like you look at someone like Brady's program, and it is much more complex. What she's doing is more complex, and yet, I don't know. With PCS, like those transitions are part of it,
Yeah.
but they're not really all of the PCS. So sometimes other people will perform more and will sneak around all of her
and
transitions.
she was cleaner, even though I hate the bent
Yeah.
arm, but
Yeah, that barely leaves the ice, those jumps. But
Yeah.
Oh, and the other thing is when she hits some of these cool Benoit poses, I think she's obviously a very talented girl. She's great, works hard, but like it is also interesting that our world champion finished behind the 11th place finisher at Russians. But like
you mean our
she would
national
lead-
champion.
Our national champion. What did I say? I don't know what
You were
the
saying
heck
our
I'm
world
saying.
champion. It's after
Oh, no.
midnight for me here. I mean, come on, let's go.
Yeah, exactly. What's my excuse? Yeah, okay. Like, let's say you're doing like something in Pilates, or you're doing some sort of like body weight thing, and you have your legs up. And then supposedly, well, from when I used to work out a million years ago, and then you would bring your legs down, and they would tell you, don't let your legs fall.
Don't drop.
You have
yes.
to be,
Control
don't
them down.
drop it. And that's a little bit sometimes what happens with Brady. Like she'll do these like cool line things where part of her upper body is down, or part of a leg is something you see she just kind of like falls into it instead of making each thing a meaningful emotional moment. But that may come with time, that may not come with time. I don't know. I'm just she's making the kinds of errors that I still feel are okay technically.
Mm-hmm.
Not that worry me.
Yeah.
So I feel like she's obviously still our only shot.
Well, yeah, I mean, her and Mariah Bell are kind of the... And is Mariah coming back or not? Like, at a certain point, I think you have to decide if you're going to compete. Yeah. So...
Yeah.
And Star Andrews, I really think there needs to be a change made in some respect. I don't know exactly what it is, but that, to me, is a situation that's... Like, she's not ready for the prime time in some respect. Like, there's just something that's missing to me. But she does have an inherent... People like her, and there's an inherent quality there, and there is a talent.
She is so beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't know if that's, like, appropriate thing to say, but, like, inevitably, you're going to be rooting for this girl that comes on. And in the short, I mean, it was a cool color, and she just looks exquisite. And in an unfair way, you're already rooting for her. Mm-hmm. And then it doesn't. I mean, I'm not interested in jumping on that bandwagon. I'll still keep hoping for Marin, but to me, that investment is very different than the one Star.
Like, could Star do pairs? I often wonder too. Like, she has just an inherent like.
Oh, interesting.
You could tell she wants to win. I'm like, that's the kind of girl. I'm like, I bet if you chucked her across the room, she'd land on one leg. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
She
exactly.
has that thing that like. Don't push Star, like, don't shake her hand, she'll break it. You know, like, I think that they would say that about people. Dick would say that about people. Like, she has that kind of tough as nails, Megan Duhamel kind of thing to her. Like, if she has a second wind as a pair girl, I would not be shocked. There's just some...
And it may be better to do it sooner rather than later.
Yeah. Like, she...
Although the USFS is giving her the signal that they want to push her.
Well, and we have no one else, so...
No. Yeah.
Also, Surskaya has that, like, big jumps, but with the arms and the legs don't move together, and she has the delayed rotation. And are they just enhancing it more with Buyanova? Like, is she becoming Sotskova of, like, the carrot cake kind of protocol? But the short program had some unders, and then the long program was just a mess. And
I know, and it made me sad because I'm still hopelessly rooting for. And I just think, you know, in her triplets, she ended up doing the triplets double toe in the long. And she does that thing like Karen Chen used to do, where it's beautiful in a way, but she almost delays the rotation, which makes it so exciting. But inevitably, they're just like Karen, there's a land in a thud, and it makes it difficult to tack on the next jump. You know what I mean? And she did that also with the
Why does her hair look so dark on TV the last year or so? Like, has it always been that dark? Is it the color of the dress? But to me, she looks like really like Morticia Addams, like with the black.
I thought
it's like the black
with the blue. I thought she took Brady's short program dress and put it through a shredder and then put it on for the long.
Like it may be the color with the hair or something is looking like really dark to a girl that like has like. I want to give her some warmth. Like, she's young, and to me, it's like a weird vibe. They give her very heavy music, and they give the waltzes, but she is still young and fresh and beautiful.
And full of energy and talented. Yeah. And the thing is, like, I don't know, I make up all my own weird backstories, but, you know, I decided she was persecuted under Eteria, and it was here. It was at Skate America, where she was fourth and probably should have made more of a splash. And it just breaks I hope that she's okay and that she does well, because I really think she has some of the most gifted legs. Maybe not knees, but definitely legs in Russia, you know?
And Megan Westenberg had a nice short. I don't think we expected her to nail. I mean, she really fought for the free skate, you know, after a rough start. So I thought that was, you know, promising in a way for...
a nice moment for her.
Yeah, a nice moment. So, no, sincerely, a nice moment, I thought.
I don't know if she has more moments in the future, but this was she was given a big opportunity, and she did very respectably.
Yeah, so that was Skate America. I mean, it was an interesting competition.
It was a fun start. You know how sometimes, like, when we start certain seasons and we're like, oh, this was a fun start. I thought there were a couple of good ladies programs that my interest was at max. Like, interesting men's situation, a great dance team. You know, the overall dance event was fun.
Fabulous split with Alexa and Aljona to keep our interest. Like,
just personal dramas and dreams just like coming to fruition, crashing, like all of this mania that's happening in Everett, Washington. You know, so
I know I left a comment, like a cheeky comment on a Lipinski photo, and then like her husband was saying that like I live in my dad's basement or something, and I was like, oh, not quite true, but yeah. Funny story here is that Tara posted a picture of Michelle, but about like their rivalry and how no one will ever like understand it. But she picked a photo where like half of Michelle's face was cropped out, and sure, we know that there were they were on many podiums together, and I was like just writing like a funny comment, and Tara takes everything to be like that everyone hates her because they like Michelle, and like no, and like
That's not about you or your comment. That's about someone else.
She wrote like a nasty thing, and you're just like, well, that wasn't what I was really going for, but you know. Mm-hmm. So yeah,
right.
You know, just anyway,
like, onward and upward for Dave Lee's.
I wound up deleting it because I was like, wow, this is a lot of like negativity.
File.
That's like just. Yeah. Just. Anyway, what was your highlight? So, what was your moment of the weekend, Jonathan?
Oh, shoot. I forgot to think about this. Okay, I'm going to go by divisions, disciplines, I guess is the word. Satoko doing well. Mm-hmm. Great moment. Mm-hmm. That was a really. Yeah, I guess that's probably it. Although Hubble and Donahue, I do always enjoy watching their short, especially. That was a nice moment. And in the men...
Nathan's program was great. The free skate was fantastic.
Yeah. But for me, the moment was...
Satoko, yeah. I liked Nathan's choreographic sequence. I thought had a real moment. Like, it came alive. That, like, edgy... movement that he does. It's very uniquely him. And I thought that really Satoko's short program, but specifically the step sequence in and through to the ending spin, I thought was just beautiful and just wonderful.
Any Satoko step sequence to me will always be a contender.
I thought they were 2+5s back to back, and that it was just pure class. And it was magical and mesmerizing and wonderful. So we want to know, what was your moment of the week? And remind you to hold an edge, skate like Satoko, and look sexy. Bye, guys.